93.9 LPFM, Lexington, Kentucky.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of Lexington Community Radio or its board of directors. The views expressed are solely those of the programmers.
You are listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
Welcome everybody to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks coming at you live from Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you for listening to the show and thank you for tuning in to WLXU 93.9 FM. In addition to listening to us on the radio, you can check out our Facebook live stream at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, or you could stream the show live from the station website at radiolex.us to listen to us from anywhere in the entire world. It is September the 25th, 2025, 4:01 to be exact. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Last week, I started off the show with a plethora of technical difficulties, but it made for good radio. Hopefully today, we don't have as many as we did last week. Now, it's starting off so far so good. There is internet. And you know what? When you got internet, it just seems like everything goes a lot smoother. I want to just kind of speak for the men right here for a second. Now, all of my fellow men out there, I know that I have a huge female following. I would say the off-the-cuff following, it's actually 53% male and it's 47% female. So more males listen to this show than female, but it's pretty divided. Like, I have a lot of female and male listeners. And I don't mean to offend anybody with this topic, but when I talk to women, they always say to me, they're always like, you don't know what it's like to be a woman. Being a woman is hard. Being a man isn't tough at all. And I understand where they're coming from. They have to go through things. Ladies have to go through things that men don't have to go through. And yes, it is probably more difficult to be a woman than it is to be a man. Hello, childbirth. I rest my case. But it's not easy. It's not easy being a man. There are a lot of things as men in everyday life that we have to do that is hard. Things that women don't have to worry about. So I started thinking about what are the hardest parts about being a man in everyday life. Well, let's start with shaving. Now, you guys could argue and women can argue and say, well, we have to shave too. But we got to shave, and if we don't shave every day, we look like we are a porcupine. So shaving is a little annoying. You don't have to worry about shaving your face every single day. If you do not want to shave your armpits or shave your legs as a female, you can just put on pants if you don't want people to see that. But you can't really hide your face as a man. You have to shave every day. We have to worry about the wallet bulge as men. Carrying around a big block in our back pocket is very, very uncomfortable. Now, that may seem like just a small thing to you, but you try sitting comfortably with a brick in your back wallet or in your back pocket, and you tell me if your spine doesn't turn out to look like a question mark. We have to do more haircuts than you. Typically, we have to do 3 haircuts every 2 months. We have to get at least 3 haircuts. Ladies can go 4, 5, 6 months, 7 months without even having to go to the salon. We have to keep maintenance on our hair more often than you ladies. Carrying everything. You ladies you guys get to carry purses. It's socially acceptable to carry a purse. Men, it's not so much socially acceptable to carry any type of satchel unless you'll be made fun of. So that makes us feel so pressured to have to carry everything. And we end up sticking things in our pockets because we have nothing to put it in, and our pockets just bulge out. And it looks like that we've just got dirty magazines just ripped out and stuffed into our pockets. We have to always do the heavy lifting. We're always expected to do the heavy lifting. Hey, some of us aren't as strong as what other men are. So why are we always expected to lift the heavy things? Even if we're not able to carry it, we're still expected to know how, or we're expected to carry it. men are always pressured into having to know about sports, even when they don't know about sports. You always feel pressured to want to be a part of the conversation. So even if you don't have a team, you have to know enough just to keep a conversation going. Ladies don't really have to worry about having to know about certain things to keep a conversation going. As a man, if you don't know much about sports, that kind of blocks out 90% of the things that men talk about. We have a lot of things that we've got to worry about as men. For instance, if we've got a beard, we have to worry about getting beard crumbs in our beard. I mean, you try having to knock out food from your beard when it falls in there. You don't have to worry about it as ladies. We always have to, as men, we are expected to give up most of the storage spaces in our houses. For instance, usually when a man and a woman live together, the woman and man share the bathroom. The woman always gets more space than the man. I understand why that is. Women have more stuff, but why is it always expected that the woman should get more of a space? I mean, they get more space in the closet. They get more space on their shelves. What about the men? We're always expected to do things like lawn duty. We're always expected to know how to fix things around the house. There is a lot of pressure about being a man every single day. So being a man, it is tough. It's not easy in everyday life. There is so much expected of us. And I feel like the biggest thing that causes us so much anxiety is just the pressure that we're put under as men. So, ladies, I'm not disagreeing with you. It is hard to be a woman, and I would say it probably is harder being a woman than it is a man because of the things that you guys have to do. But don't say it's easy to be a man because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't. But folks, we do have a great show ahead of you today. You are listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Radio Lux, the voice of the people. WLXU 93.9 LPFM, Lexington, Kentucky.
Radio Lex only exists in our community because of the generosity of supporting members like Lauren Gothrop. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to the voice of the people. To learn how you can become a supporting member, visit radiolex.us/donate.
Este invierno proteja a todos los miembros de su familia vacunándose anualmente contra el COVID y la gripe. Obtenga más información en lfchd.org. Radio Lex is proud to have the support of founding community partner and State Farm agent Deborah Hensley. Deborah believes in giving every member of our community a chance to let their voice be heard to unify and strengthen our city. To learn more, you can visit deborahhensley.com or call 859-276-3244.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Jimmy Kimmel's broadcast returned with some big ratings. Last week on the show, I was telling you guys that Jimmy Kimmel was yanked off the air due to some comments he made. ABC pulled his show indefinitely, and when we last were talking about it, we didn't know if Jimmy Kimmel would return. And it had a lot of people who were fans of Jimmy Kimmel concerned. But folks, as of now, he is back on the air. It did not take long. He came back on the air this week, this past Tuesday, to an average of 6.2 million viewers. Now, that is it says a quadruple than what he usually gets. He got 6.2 million viewers just for this one episode that he did. And ABC is expecting even bigger ratings throughout the rest of the week because everybody's eyeballs are on Jimmy Kimmel. Now, if you didn't watch the Jimmy Kimmel return, you don't really have to when you listen to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, because I watched it for you. Now, Jimmy Kimmel, he came out, and the first thing that he wanted to do was he wanted to set the record straight that he was not making fun of anyone who died, and that's not what his intention was. Take a listen.
I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it, nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way.
Now, Jimmy Kimmel, he seemed pretty upset when he was talking about it. He broke, he started to cry, his voice started to crack as he was talking, but that's no strange thing for Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel does not hold his emotions very well. He often cries when he speaks. Whenever he speaks about something emotional, 9 times out of 10, that man is going to cry. But he did cry in this particular situation, and he just started off with his monologue saying that he did not intend for anybody to think that he was making fun of what had happened. Now, the next thing he went on to talk about in his monologue was he mentioned Erica Kirk and how she forgave the shooter, and he says that was very inspirational for him.
On Sunday, Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow.
So, and I agree. And a lot of people, they say, how could anybody forgive anybody that did something like that? Well, the answer is simple. If you're a Christian, you should never even hesitate for 1 second to ever forgive somebody that asked your forgiveness. And as a Christian, a true Christian would immediately forgive someone, no matter what they've done. And I'll tell you why. Because when you think back about what you were forgiven for, it makes it pretty easy to overlook some things that were done to you. But you don't know what I'm talking about if you're not a Christian. Okay, now, Jimmy Kimmel, he went on and talked about what kind of went on behind the scenes, because, as you know, we really didn't know kind of what made the decision happen. We knew he made a comment, and that's why he was yanked off the air. But Jimmy Kimmel kind of shed some light here in his monologue about what was happening behind the scenes that we couldn't see. Take a listen.
I was not happy when they pulled me off the air on it. I did not agree with that decision, and I told them that, and we had many conversations. I shared my point of view. They shared theirs. We talked it through, and at the end, even though they didn't have to, they really didn't have to. This is a giant company. We have short attention spans, and I am a tiny part of the Disney Corporation. They welcomed me back on the air, and I thank them for that.
So he was not happy. I'm surprised he even come back. I thought he would sue ABC and maybe move to another network, but now ABC, for the most part, has brought his show back. There's 2 companies that air the majority of ABC's programming, and one of those companies is Nexstar. Nexstar has agreed to go ahead and air his programming. The other company, I can't think of its name, it escapes me, but they also hold the other half of his viewing audience. They have yet to release his show back on the air. So in its entirety, his show is not on the air across the country, but in most households it is. The thing about what got everybody riled up was everybody was afraid this was stomping on our freedom of speech, because Jimmy Kimmel, he went out, he gave his opinion, and because people didn't like what he had to say, he was yanked. A lot of people felt like that his remarks wasn't deserving of a firing. People thought he was just simply giving his opinion, and that should be legal in this country. So a lot of people stood by Jimmy Kimmel. People that you never would expect. People from the right. Take a listen.
Maybe most of all, I want to thank the people who don't support my show and what I believe, but support my right to share those beliefs anyway. I never would have imagined my friendship Shapiro, Clay Travis, Candace Owens, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, even my old pal Ted Cruz.
I mean, did he just say Clay Travis actually reached out for support? Now that is shocking. But Jimmy Kimmel, nonetheless, he is back on the air. So we'll see if his ratings continue to rise. Now, Donald Trump is not happy about it. He said ABC made a mistake, and he still says it is his mission to make sure that Jimmy Kimmel does go off the air. Now, whether or not he will be successful, that only time will tell. And I've told you before, folks, I do worry about late night television. I worry about the landscape of it. It's going away. We don't have many late night shows anymore. Stephen Colbert got canceled, and they didn't just cancel Stephen Colbert, they canceled the entire program. They're not even replacing the program with another host. And then you had people like Jimmy Kimmel getting kicked off. We still don't know if his future is definitely secure. So it's put a big question mark on the future of late night. And I hope late night doesn't go anywhere. I love late night television. I'm a big fan of late night television. And when James Corden left just a few years ago, they never brought back his show. You thought they would replace him, but they didn't. They just canceled the show. So it doesn't look good. But I love late night television, probably because that's when I'm at my most awake, is at night. I am a night owl. Most of my TV programming is at night. So I am very acquainted with that format. But the format, it's changed over the years. If you look back through time, all the way back to the Johnny Carson days, through the Jay Leno days, the David Letterman days, the Conan days, and now the Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel days, it's changed. And that happens with anything. But I feel like that late night television back in the day was better than it is today. So that's probably the reason that it is on such a decline. But I do love late night television, and it made me start thinking about late night TV overall. And one of the things I love about really late night television is the music that is on late night television. And folks, you know where I'm going with this. I love late night shows. And one of the things I love about them is the late night theme music. All of the shows have a theme music, whether it's the Tonight Show, whether it's the Late Late Show, whether it's the Late Show. Every show has their own particular theme song that is attached to it. And usually when a show continues but they get another host, they change the theme song because it's almost a completely different show at that point. So it made me start thinking of what are some of the most iconic late night theme songs of all time. And folks, think about it. Think about all of the late night programs that you've watched throughout the years. And think about the opening theme. When you hear that theme, you know that program is coming on. So I've got to start the list with probably the most iconic late night theme song of all time, and that's the Johnny Carson Show. This is called Johnny's Theme. It was composed by Bon Annika, and it was used as the opening theme for Carson's Tonight Show from the beginning to end. It first aired in 1962 until he finally went off the air after 30 years in 1992. What makes this theme so great is it's smooth. It's got a swing jazz feel to it. It evokes showbiz energy. Here's Johnny. And when you hear this music, you just think late night television. This has got late night television written all over it. So one of the most iconic late night theme songs of all time is from The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. But folks, that isn't all. There are more great iconic late night theme songs. For instance, when Jimmy Fallon took over The Tonight Show, he added a brand new theme song. Here it is. It's more upbeat, it's more New Yorky, and it kind of fits his personality a little bit better. Now, what was interesting about what Jimmy Fallon did to the Tonight Show was when he took over the Tonight Show, he moved the show to New York City. And before, the Tonight Show was never in New York City. It was always in Los Angeles. So when Fallon took over the show and he moved it to New York, he added a new theme song to it. And I feel like this is very New York-y. Now, the theme for Jimmy Fallon, it's very modern. I feel like it just fits his personality a lot better than what the Carson theme would have fit. Even though I love the Carson theme more, I just felt like that Fallon had a great theme song added to his show. Now, one of my other favorite late night theme songs of all time, and I definitely think this is an iconic one, and this is from Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Now, this is my favorite late night program of all time. Late Night with Conan O'Brien. It used to come on at 12:30 at night. Very, very late. So most people wasn't even up to watch this show. I feel like when Conan was doing this show, he was at his best in late night television. Yes, he went on to do The Tonight Show, have his own show on TBS, but when he was the host of Late Night with Conan O'Brien at 12:30, right after The Tonight Show, that was a show and a half. So I am just so fond of this theme song. It brings back so many memories. I like it because it's energetic, it's quirky. It's one of those that Paul Schaefer actually wrote for him. Paul Schaefer worked for David Letterman for years, but he also wrote this for Conan. And I think that it just kind of speaks volumes to Paul Schaefer, how he's able to fit music to people's personality. But that's not all, folks. What about The Late Show with David Letterman? Now, Paul Schaefer, he also composed this theme for Late Night with, or for The Late Show with David Letterman. Now, some might argue with this, but I think that Dave was perfect for late night television. I think that David Letterman probably was the king of late night. Okay, maybe Johnny was the king of late night, but there was no better successor than David Letterman. David Letterman, he wasn't fake. He wasn't always laughing at what everybody said just to laugh. If he laughed, it was genuine. And people trusted Dave. People were comfortable with Dave. He felt real. He felt like your old buddy, your old pal. But before David Letterman became a show, before he became a host on CBS for The Late Show, he used to have a show that come on right after Johnny Carson, and it was called Late Night with David Letterman. And because it was a different show, he had a different theme. And this was the theme to it. And David Letterman was the one who established this show. He was the one who started it. Seth Meyers hosts it today. But David Letterman was the one who started it. That's how David Letterman got his start in the biz, coming on right after Carson at 12:30. So you'll notice the contrast between Johnny Carson's theme and David Letterman's theme here. You always had a jazzy feel when Carson come on, and then when it was time for Dave, it just kind of set the mood a little differently. It made it feel more quirky. It made it feel more fun. It made it feel more carefree. I mean, it was later at night, so you could get away with more. But I felt like that this was a good fit for David Letterman at the time. Now, David Letterman, he ended up leaving this show after he didn't get The Tonight Show and went on to CBS. And then Conan replaced him on this show. And then when Conan left the show, Jimmy Fallon took over. Now, Jimmy Fallon didn't take over as the host of The Tonight Show before he took over the host of this show right here, Late Night. And that's going to be next on my list is the theme of Jimmy Fallon's Late Night Show before he was the host of The Tonight Show. They call this theme Here I Come, and this was composed by The Roots. Fallon used this theme for the entirety of his run as the late night show host for 5 years. I like this theme because it's warm, it's modern, it kind of integrates hip-hop and groove all at the same time. The Roots are such a dynamic group that everything just feels so organic when they do it. Now, when Jimmy Fallon retired from this show and moved to The Tonight Show, Seth Meyers took over as the host, which means there was a brand new theme added to the show, and here it is. This is composed by Justin Timberlake, who wrote the theme for Late Night with Seth Meyers. I like this one because it's catchy. It's got like a pop feeling to it, obviously, because Justin Timberlake did it. But it's kind of got a blend of humor and just something memorial about it. Just memorable, I should say. What about The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien? This is when Conan O'Brien took over after Jay Leno retired. Conan O'Brien was only the host of The Tonight Show for 9 months before he was fired. So he only got to use this theme for 9 months. But what a theme it was. And then you've got this theme from Jay Leno back when he used to host The Tonight Show. Now, Jay Leno's Tonight Show was right after Johnny Carson. He had big shoes to fill when he took over. So he didn't win people over right at first. It was hard for people to accept that Johnny was gone and Jay was the new man in town. But instead of keeping Johnny's theme, he wanted to do things differently. So he changed everything about The Tonight Show. He changed the set. He changed the theme music. He changed everything. So it makes sense that he would change it. And he kept this music his entire run as the host of the Tonight Show. So he wasn't one to change something once he liked it. He liked it. Now here's another iconic late night show theme song. This is from The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. This is interesting because this is the only theme song that has words to it. Here, folks, is something interesting. This is the original theme for The Tonight Show before Johnny Carson took it over. Most people think Johnny Carson is the first host of The Tonight Show. That is false. The Tonight Show actually existed before Johnny Carson. And it was hosted by a man named Jack Parr. And this was the theme song to The Tonight Show before Carson took it over. I would say if you're old enough to remember this, this has to prick your heart just a tad. Okay, now, I know I've mentioned Conan several times, but Conan has hosted several late night shows, and every time he hosts a new late night show, he has a different theme. So, this next one is from Conan O'Brien's show Conan that he hosted on TBS for 10 years. And I think it was his best theme that he ever had. And this is it. Now, this kind of sums up Conan O'Brien. Goofy, energetic, a lot of energy, hyper. This music screams all of that. All right, and finally, one more here on the list, and we're talking about the most iconic late night show theme songs of all time. And last on the list, I'm going to put The Late Late Show with James Corden. So you'll notice that all of these late night theme songs, they all kind of sound similar. Even though they're different, they sound similar because they all have guitar riffs, they all have jazz kind of included in it. But that's just kind of what late night television is about. I'm afraid, folks, it's going to go away. I really am. If that goes away, I'll never be able to live out my dream of hosting a late night television program. But since late night television is kind of in the forefront of everybody's mind right now because of all of this stuff happening with Jimmy Kimmel, maybe that's what saved the day. Maybe that's what's going to save the late night format. But since it is in everybody's mind, I just wanted to do a topic on some of the most iconic late night theme songs throughout the years. But folks, we still have lots more Off the Cuff with Adam Banks coming your way right after these words. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
At Radio Lex, we want to keep our community safe.
Per the ACLU, if police agents ask you about your immigration status, keep calm.
In some states, you must provide your name to law enforcement if you are stopped and told to identify yourself. But even if you give your name, you do not have to answer other questions.
If you are driving and are pulled over, the officer can require you to show your license, vehicle registration, and proof of insurance, but you don't have to answer questions about your immigration status.
Radio Lex is committed to providing trustworthy information to our community.
For more information, visit radiolex.us or aclu.org.
Hi, I'm Lily Rochelle, and this is Radio Lex, the voice of the people. WLXU 93.9 FM in Lexington.
Hey, this is Dale Morgan, host of Conversations Around the Table. Have a seat at the table with us every Thursday night at 6 p.m. as we get comfortable, sip on some coffee, and converse about our world and our community. That's every Thursday night at 6 p.m. right here on Radio Lex, 93.9 LPFM, the voice of the people.
Students, staff, and families of Fayette County, public and private schools, and homeschoolers are invited to celebrate Lexington's 250th anniversary at the Kentucky Horse Park on Saturday, August 2nd from 5 to 8 p.m. Guests receive complimentary admission to the park, and the party will feature photo ops with mini horses, a teen zone, food trucks, prizes, and more. Plus, tour the International Museum of the Horse and participate in Lexington's Big Cake Birthday Party at 6 p.m. To learn more, look for 250 Lex KY on social media. Radio Lex is proud to be a media sponsor of 250 Lex. Radio Lex only exists in our community because of the generosity of supporting members like Richard Seckel. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to the voice of the people. To learn how you can become a supporting member, visit radiolex.us/donate.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. The nation had a memorial for the life of Charlie Kirk this week. So many people showed out in Arizona to pay tribute to the man who lost his life on the campus of Utah Valley State. Now, since we last have talked about this tragic event, so many things have come to fruition. So many new developments have happened. We talked a lot about those last week on the show. But it has since sparked so many conversations around the country about how to go forward, how to proceed. And so many things have happened. Now, some things that I've noticed about what's been happening with this Charlie Kirk situation is that the state of Oklahoma has announced plans to put Turning Point USA chapters in every high school in the state. saying it would counter radical leftist teacher unions and their woke indoctrination. Oklahoma state senators have introduced a bill requiring that all state colleges are to erect and protect statues honoring the late conservative activist Charlie Kirk. They said that the colleges will be responsible for protecting the statues from vandalism, and if a student or college employee is found defacing or otherwise vandalizing the statue, the bill requires that the institution expels or fires them. Now, this is something that needs to be passed, but it is been put up as a bill to be passed. So whether or not it will, only time will tell. What are you guys' thoughts on it? Do you think that Oklahoma schools should be required to put up a statue of Charlie Kirk, or do you disagree? Now, many speakers that spoke at the memorial, they used that time to just praise him as an individual. They praised his faith. They praised his ability to stand firm in his beliefs, and he was not shy to say what he believed in, and he spoke it boldly and he spoke it proudly. And if you didn't get a chance to watch the memorial, it's okay, because you're listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, and I watched it for you. The last person to speak of the night was Donald Trump. I thought it was going to be his wife, but it was Donald. Erica spoke before Donald Trump. Now, something that kind of caught me off guard when Erica came out to speak was they set off pyro. They set off pyro like she was Y2J coming down to the ring. And I thought that was a little odd, but nonetheless, I just kind of ignored it and went on. But she started off her speech, of course, praising her husband. Take a listen.
While Charlie died far too early, he was also ready to die. He left this world without regrets. He did 100% of what he could every day. But I want you to know something. Charlie died with incomplete work, but not with unfinished business.
So she looked very fierce in her eyes as she was talking. And of course, J.D. Vance got up and said a few things about his friend, Charlie Kirk.
My friends, for Charlie, we must remember that he is a hero to the United States of America, and he is a martyr for the Christian faith. May our Heavenly Father give us the courage to live as Charlie lived. That is what we must do for Charlie. You ran a good race, my friend. I love you. We've got it from here.
It seems like that the nation is still mourning the loss, and I understand. He spoke a lot of things that people stood by. And now I do know that not everybody agreed with every single thing that he said. That's okay. This is America. You can agree to disagree. And that's what free speech is all about. That is what being an American is all about. But it seems like that this news isn't going anywhere. People thought by now it would die down. I don't think it has. I think it's left a lasting impression on this nation. It's woke this nation up to something. I can't put my finger on it, but it feels like things are different. I've been seeing things online. I've been seeing things on social media that people are saying something just feels different now in the world, and they can't put their finger on it. I know what they mean, and I can't really either. So it was definitely one of those things that just kind of shook this country, and this is one of those deaths, this is one of those assassinations that will never be forgotten in this country. It will always be remembered. Always. All of the most infamous assassinations that's ever happened in this country that's still talked about today, this will be one of those. This will be one of those. And of course, my thoughts and prayers do go out with all of those affected by this death. But this seems like a great place, folks, to take Off the Cuff's Song of the Week break. And how about a little Why Don't You Do It by Little Bernie, and we'll be back after the song.
Been a stranger week with the stuff you didn't do and the people that you meet, and digging up a bush like Clancy. Got a face, a number, and a name that she goes on. I guess plenty
Got to turn that music off or they'll kick me off the Facebook live stream. How's everybody doing? Thank you for tuning in. Let's see what everybody's saying. I admire your willingness to talk about subjects that spark some heated debates. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Nikki. Hello to everybody else watching. Today is September the 25th, 2025. And folks, so much has happened on this day in history. For instance, on this day in history, September the 25th, 1789 is when the U.S. Congress proposed the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights was proposed today in history, folks, September the 25th. Also on this day in history, 1926 is when Henry Ford announces an 8-hour, 5-day work week for workers at Ford Motor Company. That was a big deal at the time. Before Henry Ford did that, Americans used to work 6, 7 days a week and sometimes all day. Henry Ford was kind of a trailblazer into making America into a 5-day, 40-hour-a-week work week, which we have adopted. And for the bulk of the workforce, that's still the guidelines we go by. 40 hours a week, 5 days a week is considered a full-time job. On this day in history, September 25th, 1926 is when the NHL grants franchise to the Chicago Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings. And on this day in 1997, the WNBA announces it will add Detroit and Washington, D.C. franchises. On this day in history, September the 25th, 2015 is when Caitlyn Jenner officially changes her name from Bruce and her gender to female. That was a big deal at the time because she was really the first person to that was of that status, that much fame, to publicly come out as transgender. Now, to my knowledge, on this day in history, September the 25th, 2018 is when comedian Bill Cosby is sentenced to 3 to 10 years in jail for a 2004 sexual assault, becoming the first celebrity to be jailed in the Me Too era. I remember when people heard the news about Bill Cosby at the time, it was shocking. He was America's dad. He was Mr. Huxtable. He was the last person that you would see doing anything like that. So that put shockwaves in America because that really opened people's eyes to not everybody is how they seem, especially how they seem based off the characters that they play. Just because they play a certain person or a certain character on television that doesn't mean that mirrors their reality, their real soul, their real person. On this day in history, September the 25th, 2018, also the same day as Cosby, is when Instagram co-founders Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger resigned from Instagram and parent company Facebook. They got a big multi-million-dollar payout for that, so it's not like they quit with no money. But all of those things did happen on this day in history throughout time. But folks, we still have one more segment to go right here on Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Radio Lex is proud to have the support of founding community partner and State Farm agent Deborah Hensley. Deborah believes in giving every member of our community a chance to let their voice be heard to unify and strengthen our city. To learn more, you can visit DeborahHensley.com or call 859-276-3244.
Radio Lex is proud to have the support of founding community partner and State Farm agent Deborah Hensley. Deborah believes in giving every member of our community a chance to let their voice be heard, to unify and strengthen our city. To learn more, you can visit DeborahHensley.com or call 859-276-3244.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Last segment of the hour. Today's national holiday is National Comic Book Day. It comes to you every September 25th, and it just so happened to fall on a Thursday. The comic book genre has grown to include full-length books or graphic novels, and they have inspired countless movie adaptations. While they were first just typically known as humorous, it didn't take long for authors to apply the comic style to all genres of storytelling. Comic books are definitely its own thing. I love a good comic book. I used to read them as a kid. I actually used to own the very first Spider-Man comic book in plastic. I am afraid to look up to see how much that is worth today. I don't have it anymore. You may ask, Adam, were you just a careless child that threw away your toys? No, my house burned down, and the magazine was in there, so it became ashes. But I attained a copy of that comic book because my grandfather owned a comic book store. He worked at one, or he owned one, and he was able to get access to all of these comic books, and he got me a comic book of the first Spider-Man in plastic. And he said, this is going to be worth a lot of money, son, one day. Well, probably is. I'm not looking up to find out. But today we do celebrate National Comic Book Day. The very first comic book ever released, it was called The Adventures of Obadiah Oldbuck. In 1938, Superman was invented. It became the most iconic comic book of all time, and then it just ushered in the golden age of comic books after Superman. In the 1960s, Marvel creates some of its major superheroes thanks to comic books. Some of them are Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. In the late 60s, you had the underground comics developed, and then you also had comic books that reflected youth and drug counterculture. Now, here are some fun facts about National Comic Book Day. It says here that comic and graphic novel sales, the sales fell 6.5% in 2017. It just doesn't seem like comic books were as popular as they once were. 60% of people started reading comics before they turned the age of 10. So it was a really good tool to help kids learn how to read. Here are some fun facts also about comic books that you should know. The Incredible Hulk was originally meant to be gray, but there were some ink problems with the printing, and it created a green glow. So that is why the Incredible Hulk is green instead of gray. Here's another fun fact. There was an actual comic book superhero named the Green Llama. He was a Buddhist whose powers included reincarnation. And then Stan Lee. If you don't know who Stan Lee is, he is a big author of some of the most iconic superheroes and comic books ever created. He got his start in writing by actually writing for celebrity obituaries in New York City. He worked for a magazine in New York, and he ended up writing obituaries for very famous people throughout time. And that's how he got his start in writing. I do love comic books. You see comic books used to illustrate stories. You see comic books used to get a point across. A lot of Christians use comic books even to get the gospel message out. They're called gospel tracts. Have you ever found a gospel tract and the tract is kind of written like a comic book telling a story about what will happen to you if you reject Christ as your Savior? Those are all in those tracts, and they use the form of comic books to do that. But I do love a good comic book. There's just something special about them. There's something fun about them. They tell a story. So I love comic books. It helps kids learn to read. It helps pass the time. It helps just people kind of explore their imagination. So I do think that comic books are good for people. They're timeless, and they've inspired record-breaking movies. Think about all of the movies that we have. They originated from comic books. Without comic books, there would be no Superman movies. Without comic books, there would be no Batman movies. There would be no Spider-Man movies. There would be no Incredible Hulk, the Iron Man. There would be none of that. None of that would exist without comic books existing first. So we have to pay homage to the original format of comic books, and we can do that today. So happy National Comic Day, everybody. But folks, that seems like a great place to end the show. You have been listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. If you liked what you heard today, you'll probably like all of our previous episodes. We archive them all on podcast, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast. You can follow me, the show host, on social media at The Adam Banks. You can follow the show on social media at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. We release new episodes every Thursday from 4 to 5 right here on WLXU 93.9 FM, which means we will be back same time, same place next week. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Adam Banks, the king of radio, and this is Off the Cuff. I'll catch you down the road. All right, guys, thank you so much